So you probably know what a nozzle is. Like this one, which is bamboos with a heat sink. It's an A1 series. And this one, which is a V6. Now you probably know what a nozzle does for a 3D printer. It melts the filament down to a thinner length or width, diameter, whatever you want to call it. We do this so we can print finer objects. Objects that you can actually tell what are and are distinguishable, everything like that. Alright, so this filament is 1.75 millimeters. And this nozzle is 0.2 millimeters. We make the size smaller, of course, to make more fine objects from that 1.75. Could you imagine that being the finest nozzle you have? Meaning details are almost non-existent. But now we're in the world of bamboo with tiny nozzles. They come pre-equipped with a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. But why is this relevant to this video? Well, I guess you clicked on it, so you probably know what this video is about. So why should you care about the nozzle size? Now this is a great question, and this depends on who you are. For me, I bought a 0.2 millimeter nozzle for my A1 mini so I can print smaller text. So like on these parts that I'll show you later, they have really fine text, and I need a 0.2 millimeter nozzle to show them best. So you might be asking, what does it matter if I have a 0.4 or a 0.2? Now, this is a great question. I was supposed to say let me break it down for you, so here you go. Okay, maybe you thought that was terrible, but whatever. Alright, so if you look at this thing, the text is pretty good. And the reason this is pretty good is because this was the 0.2 millimeter nozzle. As you can see, you can kind of see that text there, which is great. But this was the 0.4 millimeter nozzle. The text is much more blurry, not just from focus. And here on the back, most of that text doesn't even exist. What? That's a scam. I mean, back when Lawsbot was a primary company, they were using 3 millimeter filament and 1.7 nozzles, which made it extremely coarse, which is really bad because I still can barely read this text here on the back, though I wrote it, so I need to change the colors. So now the real question is, should you invest in a smaller nozzle for your 3D printer? One great question is, what do you print? Like if you print stuff like me, most of the stuff I print, I want kind of fast, but also kind of precise. So 0.4 and 0.6 are perfect for that. But if you're into really detailed, fine detailed models like resin printers, you would want a smaller nozzle like a 0.2. Or just buy a resin printer, I guess, is an option too. But another question is, why not switch to a bigger nozzle to make it quicker? Now yes, it will make it quicker. But one issue is you burn through filament really quickly. Now granted, I've never run one of these, but I can give you stats. Though, there is one thing, they purge about the same amount of material. Now some of this is 0.2 and some of this is 0.4. Though the 0.2 has to switch more times than the 0.4, but they end up being about the same because the wasted material is very similar. Alright, let's start out with your 0.4. Your times are about an hour. Filament change time's 18. Your total usage is 12.4 grams. Now for 0.2, 27 times. Your cost is higher. Got 16.23 grams. It takes 3.5 hours. Though with that added time, you get added, looks. It looks better, everything like that. Alright, this is a 0.6 millimeter nozzle. As you can see, much less time. 10.6 grams, 14 changes, and 0.21 of a cost. But of course, you can barely see the top text, and your bottom text is barely existent. Though somehow it still has more texture than the 0.4. Alright, and your last one, this only takes 35 minutes, 10 grams, changes filament 11 times, but absolutely looks so horrible. It will print really quick, but it looks horrible, really good for prototypes and stuff. That would be a 0.8 millimeter nozzle. Now where a point like 8 or something on a printer would be really helpful would be on like the Neptune 4 Max, where it's a big printer. See, this takes about 2 hours to print. So as you can see, much quicker, uses more filament, and takes about an hour and a half instead of 2 hours. Alright, the funny thing is this takes longer. It's 3 hours instead of 2, uses more filament, and will look even worse. So probably work worse too. So yeah, I don't know what that's all about.